Church, we're going to read some things here in Jeremiah 32 and just say that sometimes God asks us to do stuff that doesn't always make sense to us in the moment. Just giving you a little heads up before we read the scriptures that we're reading. At that time, the Lord sent me a message. This is Jeremiah speaking. He said, "Your cousin Hananel, son of Shalem, will come and say to you, 'Buy my field at Anathoth. By law, you have the right to buy it before it is offered to anyone else.' Then, just as the Lord had said he would, my cousin Hananel came and he visited me in prison." So, just to stop here for a second, Jeremiah is locked up in prison because he had already declared that the king of Babylon would come and destroy the nation, right? So he's in prison. God's already given him the message. He shared the message that the Babylonians were coming to take over the land, and he's in prison for it. And God says, "Your cousin is coming to sell you a piece of property here." All right? So it's not real great real estate. So let's think about this. Then, just as the Lord had said he would, my cousin came and he offered me the property, and he said, "Please buy my field at Anathon in the land of Benjamin. By law, you have the right to buy it before it is offered to anyone else, so buy it for yourself." Then I knew the message I had heard was from the Lord. So I bought the field at Anathoth, paying Hananel 17 pieces of silver for it. I signed and sealed the deed of purchase before witnesses, weighed out the silver, and paid him. Then I took the sealed deed and an unsealed copy of the deed, which contained the terms and conditions of the purchase, and I handed them to Baruch, son of Neriah, and grandson of Messiah. I did all this in the presence of my cousin Hanamel, who had signed the deed, and all the men of Judah who were in the courtyard of the guardhouse. Then I said to Baruch, as they all listened, "This is what the Lord of Heaven's army says, the God of Israel. Take both this sealed deed and the unsealed copy and put them into a pottery jar to preserve them for a long time. For this is what the Lord of Heaven's armies, the God of Israel, says. Someday, people will again own property here in this land and will buy and sell houses and vineyards and fields." Then after I gave the papers to Baruch, I prayed to the Lord. "O sovereign Lord, you made the heavens and the earth by your strong hand and your powerful arm. Nothing is too hard for you. You show unfailing love to thousands, but you also bring the consequences of one's generation's sin upon the next. You are the great and powerful God, the Lord of heaven's armies. You have all wisdom and do great and mighty miracles. You see the conduct of all people, and you give them what they deserve. You perform miracles and signs and wonders in the land of Egypt, things still remembered to this very day. And you have continued to do great miracles in Israel and all around the world. You've made your name famous to this day. You brought Israel out of Egypt with mighty signs and wonders, with a strong hand, powerful arm, and with overwhelming terror. You gave the people of Israel this land that you had promised their ancestors long before, a land that is flowing with milk and honey. Our ancestors came and conquered it and lived in it, but they refused to obey and follow your word. They've not done anything you commanded. That is why you sent this terrible disaster upon them. See how the siege ramps have been built against the city walls? Through war, famine, and disease, the city will be handed over to the Babylonians, who will conquer it. Everything has happened just as you said. And yet, O sovereign Lord, you have told me to buy the field, paying good money for it before these witnesses, even though the city will be handed over to the Babylonians." The end of the prayer. Jeremiah 32, 6 through 25. It's a little bit longer reading, but I wanted to get the context of this. You see, prior to him praying, he talks about how God spoke to him about buying this piece of property from his cousin. All that stuff takes place. He does exactly what God said, takes the deeds, puts them in the places they're supposed to, because it's a long-term thing, honestly, after the life of Jeremiah, and he knows it. And then he goes into a prayer with God, and I love how he does this, because oftentimes we're guilty of it. He's talking to God about how amazing he is and how right he is and how good he is and all that he does. Talks about his faithfulness, the miracles he's done in the past. And he gets a little bit of a whine in the end. I don't mean that in a bad way, but like, look, he's like, "God, you did exactly what you said. I mean, the armies are already outside the city wall. They're about to destroy this place. And you had me spend good money on a piece of property." He's like, "I'll never do anything with that. I'll never see that. And I just put some money out for this property that's going to go into the hands of the Babylonians. Okay, so just pause for a second. This is what I want you to see and for us to hear from God. He is a good God. He does amazing things. He calls us to obedience. Even when things don't always make sense up here, when God says to do something, we need to obey and do it. So Jeremiah did it, even though in his mind he was like, why would I buy property here? This place is going to be destroyed. I already delivered that message. You already said it's going to happen. I'm buying something. I'm burying a deed because I already know what's coming, and I'll never build on that land or have anything. See, what God asked him to do was something that he was giving as a witness about what he, God, was going to do. An amazing promise that would impact Daniel in the years ahead, that he knew that God was going to bring the people back in his prayers. Just want you to know that what God asks us to do may be uncomfortable or not seem like all logical to me, but if God's saying it, he has a purpose and a plan, and he's going to impact someone with it. So let's be his obedient people. And God bless you today.